Hi, this is Dane Spotts. Welcome to Secrets of Living the Perfect Life. What I'm about to share with you is a powerful philosophy, a system of thought that once internalized can make a significant difference in your life, in how you experience it. And your experiences have everything to do with your beliefs and how you see the world. You know what's amazing? Is that people are willing to go to war and even give up their lives for a cause, but they can't give up the causes of their suffering. Why is that? Why do we hold on to beliefs that don't serve us? Our habit patterns are so hard to break, and even when we try, obstacles seem to appear. Our desires and our attachments push us to keep repeating the same destructive patterns over and over again. Why? Why do we follow the same negative course, rarely finding happiness or satisfaction in the pleasures all around us? Here's why. It's because we haven't learned how to truly enjoy a single moment, how to live in the present. We spend most of the time worrying about the future or dwelling on the past, and so our experiences are never totally fulfilled. Our time is spent between work and pleasure, and we work, it seems, for pleasure, preparing and planning for weekends and vacations and various entertainments to escape into. Now, I'm not saying that this is wrong. I'm just asking the question, do we find real pleasure in the constant pursuit of entertainment, or are we missing something? Something deeper and more sustaining? If you're still with me, then I invite you to join me on a life quest, if you will, an internal adventure into your own potential, a self-discovery of what you can do right now to start living a perfect life. What this program is about is rethinking your life, asking yourself questions about why you do the things you do, refocusing your energy and desires from things that leave you empty to those thoughts and actions that fill you up inside with joy and happiness, switching from living an externally driven existence to one that is internally driven and substantially more satisfying. You know, it's said that 99% of the world is asleep, and the 1% that is awake are in a constant state of amazement, living fully, really experiencing all that life has to offer by being fully conscious, awake and alive, aware of the magnificent dance of life all around you. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? There are 5 principles that comprise the secret that will be revealed to you at the end of this program. I'm going to give you each principle and a brief discussion on how to implement them into your life plan. These principles are simple to understand, but may take a lifetime to master. And the point here isn't to listen to this program and have them mastered in a day. No, it's to have an understanding first of where you are in your own evolution, and then to be consciously aware of where you're going or growing, and to practice each day being a better human being. The changes that you'll notice, although subtle, are profound. And it's usually the little things that will make you aware that it's working. Like standing in line at the bank, which used to cause impatience and frustration, becomes a nothing. Or no longer worrying about future events that you have no control over, and their power seems to diminish. As you become awakened to the magic of life all around you, you begin seeing the majesty in nature and the joy in your personal relationships. The caveat is this: we live in the age of McDonald's and cellular telephones and expect instant everything. The way we live today is vastly different than even 100 years ago. And an accelerated everything seems to create more psychological difficulties because it sets up a hurry-worry mindset that is often destructive to our higher purpose. Yet there's nothing wrong with the tools that we use. It's our allowing them to control our lives that's wrong. Listen, it took you all of your life to get to where you are right now, to create the you that's you. And it may take the rest of your life to uncreate the belief systems that rule your behavior patterns. So please have patience. Let's begin with a question. What if on the evening news tonight it was reported that a gigantic asteroid was going to slam into the world tomorrow and destroy everything and everyone on planet Earth? Imagine this is real. Sometime tomorrow is the end of the world. How do you think the human race would respond? Do you think you'd see anarchy and a complete breakdown of civilization? Do you think people would revert to their most primitive animal instincts of survival and just go berserk? Or do you think individuals would reprioritize what's important and connect with each other in positive, more evolved ways? I do. I think we'd make love, embrace our children, smell the flowers. I think that if we knew our lives were about to be terminated, that it would force us deeper into life, that we would appreciate and experience more fully the time that we had to live. You know, you ask terminal patients, AIDS patients and others, how they view their lives. And while some feel cheated, for most, they feel more alive than they ever had before. They cherish all the small things that they used to take for granted. Ask some Vietnam vets about the time they felt the most alive, and they'll tell you it was when they were in the jungles of Vietnam, when at any moment their life could be snuffed out, and it was then that they felt the most alive. They'll tell you the colors were more vivid, the green so green and the blue so blue, and the red, well. So what am I getting at here? Simply this. The core element of living a perfect life is to experience being alive. When we open ourselves up to our present experiences, we can realize that now, right now, we can enjoy our lives. We don't need to be concerned with the future. The present will lead us there no matter what we do. But for most of us, because our awareness of the present is so dull, so unvividly experienced, we tend to drift along through life unconsciously, wasting time and energy, being unaware of our life and not capturing and embracing all of our experiences. And this is a terrible waste. It's also the reason people escape into chemical dependency or deviant behavior, to actually escape being alive because it doesn't give them what they want. Feeling alive, embracing all of the day's experiences no matter what your circumstances are, shouldn't have any conditions placed on it. It's not about being alive if you win the lottery or if you fall in love. There are no ifs here. It's about being, experiencing life right now, and embracing your pain and suffering and the pleasures all as part of the same thing. Some areas of our life, such as business or our career, we can be very sharp and clear about our course. But in other areas, we seem to have no clear goals, and our awareness may seem fuzzy. Oftentimes we suffer because our expectations aren't fulfilled. Or when we do succeed at something, we become proud and attached to it, and then fear losing it. Or we're frustrated by not getting enough of what we want. Not enough money, not enough love or power. No matter where we turn, there is conflict and indecision, and uncertainty of which way to go. Do any of those things sound familiar? How do you break out of them? Most of us experience a great deal of suffering in our lives. We go from one stressful situation to another, from dullness to restlessness. And although we try to escape this suffering or mask it with temporary entertainments, we usually don't let go of it until we learn from it. And the answer is to embrace it. To embrace your pain, your suffering, your confusion, and your indecision. To not run from it, but to recognize it as a part of you and to let it be your teacher. Because when you do, everything takes on a new color and meaning. And the little disappointments, the upsets, the things that don't always go your way, have much less power over you. In fact, because you're more consciously alive, you project from a center of what I call focused joy. Let me ask you to make a simple comparison. Which makes you feel more alive? Watching your favorite TV show or sitting around a campfire with family or friends? Probably not TV, right? Nor do any of the other escapes from living that we surround ourselves with make us feel more alive. So let's look at this for a second. What does make you feel alive and why? Perhaps it's skiing or biking or climbing a mountain or just going for a walk. Whatever it is, it's not about escaping. It's about involving yourself fully in whatever activity that you choose, so that you're surrounded by the moment, by experiencing full awareness of the present, that the past and future cease to exist. Now, what if you feel like that at your center every single moment of every single day? I call those people 100%ers. They're experiencing life fully 100% of the time. And although very few individuals actually do this, if you find one, look into their eyes. You'll see an unmistakable twinkle because they're high on life. And that's what we're all working toward. What we need to learn is that this doesn't require money, love, education, or any condition whatsoever to achieve. It's solely about embracing the act of living and living fully in the present. By injecting yourself fully into the present, your mind is occupied with now and cannot think of the past nor the future. There is only right now. And when you're living in the now, that's when you experience aliveness and when you're the most happy. This then is principle number 1. Learn to live consciously, to be in the present. Act as if everything matters, but nothing is really important. Let me give that to you again. Learn to live consciously, to be in the present. Act as if everything matters, but nothing is really important. The meaning of here and now is beautifully illustrated by a Zen story of a monk who was being chased by 2 tigers. He came to the edge of a cliff. He looked back, and the tigers were almost upon him. Noticing a vine leading over the cliff, he quickly crawled over the edge and began to let himself down by the vine. Then, as he checked below, he saw 2 tigers waiting for him at the bottom of the cliff. He looked up and observed that 2 mice were gnawing away at the vine. Just then, he saw a beautiful strawberry within his reach. He picked it and enjoyed the best-tasting strawberry in his whole life. Although only minutes from death, the monk could enjoy the here and now. Our life continually sends us tigers, and it continually sends us strawberries. But do we let ourselves enjoy the strawberries? Or do we use our valuable consciousness worrying about the tigers? Notice that the monk fully responded to the physical danger in the most intelligent way. He ran from the tigers, and even scrambled down the cliff while hanging onto a vine. And having done this, he remained fully in the here and now to enjoy whatever life offered him. Although death was only minutes away, he didn't let thoughts of the future terrify him. After doing everything that he could do, he used his precious consciousness to fully enjoy every moment of his life. Assume that today is your last day on earth, and everything matters because it is your last day. But nothing is really all that important. Nothing really has enough power over you to distract you from the simple pleasures of just being alive and experiencing this moment in time. And you accomplish this by being mindful of all the sensory pleasures that come your way, from the sun on your face, or the rain, to the sound of the birds or the planes, to the view of the mountains or skyscrapers outside your window. Take it all in, as if it's the last time that you'll ever get to experience it. Try this exercise for a day or a week and see how it affects your perceptions. It's a powerful way of awakening your sense of being alive. By becoming more aware of your body and your senses, by not dreaming of the future or living in the past, you release all that pent-up negative emotional energy. Your thoughts and feelings become more focused and centered. And once you discover your balance, your center, you can maintain it no matter what happens to you in life. Unlike fleeting moments of happiness, when you win the lottery or fall in love, the joy that arises from just being conscious and in the present begins to fill your life. And what's interesting is that on an emotional level, it feels like you won the lottery or that you've fallen in love every single day. The events and patterns that occur in your life become your teacher. Analyze them and practice being aware every single moment. When you do this each day, you slowly become a more and more authentic human being. Your life takes on a quality of genuineness, and the confusion and chaos outside of you slowly begin to diminish. If you face each situation by being aware, you become more responsible for your experiences, and this is the beginning of the path toward living a perfect life. Okay, got it? I know what you're thinking. Yeah, it sounds good, but winning the lottery would be better. Listen, this is the most powerful thing that you will ever do in your life. This is the seed to lasting happiness. I know lots of miserable millionaires and lots of people who fall in and out of love every month. But life doesn't have to be a roller coaster of joy and depression. Practice your awareness of the present. Do it every day. And do that by playing the mind game, this is your last day on earth. And you will see an unfolding of magnificent possibilities occur right before your very eyes. I promise. Now let's move on to the second principle, or secret to living the perfect life. Ready? Good, because this is one of the most powerful ideas of all time. It is a central core to every spiritual doctrine on earth, yet it's not well understood or followed. Perhaps because it's so deceptively simple and difficult to embrace. Principle number 2 is this: surrender to your inner power. To be fully human and experience the magic of life is to accept a higher power within that knows, guides, and directs. This doesn't come from our intellect. It's beyond intellect. And for some of you listening to this message and perhaps thinking I'm speaking of God or some religious figure, in fact, I'm not. There is without a doubt a spiritual aspect to this second principle, but it's not a religious view. If you're someone who embraces a particular doctrine and it gives you comfort to think of this principle in that context, then so be it. What I'm referring to is an idea that has nothing to do with giving up your responsibility or your actions to a higher being. On the contrary, what I'm suggesting is a subtle but profound shift in your thinking that will serve as a new conceptual pattern for how you view your reality. A way of making your life an art form with a continuum of possibilities. Let me give you an idea of what I mean by surrendering to your inner power. In the 1930s, there was an interesting book written on the subject of Zen archery called Zen in the Art of Archery. Within Zen, there are several different disciplines for following the Zen program of thought. One of these uses archery and swordsmanship as a way of teaching students how to surrender to an inner power, a concept called body knowing. Archery becomes a vehicle for showing the student how to go beyond the restrictions of his or her cultural orientation and reality conditioning. Although this can be quite difficult for an Oriental mind to master, it's almost impossible for a Westerner. One night, for the author's benefit, a Zen master stood in the dark and put an arrow directly into the center of the target. Then he took a second arrow and shot it through the first arrow, splitting the shaft and hitting the very center of the bullseye. He did this to prove to the author that the first shot was not an accident. You see, the Zen master can, with no apparent effort whatsoever, stand more than 60 paces away from the target and, even blindfolded, hit the bullseye every single time. How is it possible? In Zen archery, all the Western ideas of time and motion, cause and effect, and Newtonian physics are bypassed. The bow is made of an ancient design which is extremely hard to draw, and the way the master holds it and draws the arrow makes it even more difficult. The master breathes in the energy of the universe as he draws his bow, and when he releases the arrow, he's not concentrating his aim at the target. Instead, he is breathing it, releasing the arrow at the exact moment when the timing is perfect to reach the target, when it takes over. The act of breathing it is what causes the desired result. The author uses the term not doing to describe the idea of it breathing you. It draws the bow and releases at the exact right time, and it strikes the target without aiming. The master only concentrates on the breath, not the arrow, not the target, nor his aim. Now, this is a very hard idea for the Western mind to grasp. And I know it sounds like a lot of mumbo-jumbo to those of us who've been raised by an educational system that views reality only in a scientifically predictable way. The purpose of Zen archery is to teach the student to let go, to shift one's ordinary consciousness to the extent that it takes over you. Athletes use the term being in the zone. You probably heard this before. Being in the zone is when they're at their highest state of peak athletic performance, and they've totally let go and allowed their body knowing to take over, and it performs for them. They simply get out of its way. So why should you care or even want to do this? And even if you wanted to, how could you do this? How can you actually let go? And what happens if you do? We could do an entire course on this one notion of peak performance living, and that's not my goal here. I know you're afraid to let go. There are too many what-ifs, too many bad things that can happen. Which brings me to a more pragmatic principle, and one that you'll find value in if you practice it every day. Principle number 3 then is how to transform fear and anxiety into power. It's been said that fear is the mind killer, the little death that destroys the spirit. Most of us, whether we choose to admit it or not, are motivated in life more by fear than any other force. It rules us and the actions or lack of them in our lives. But what if there was no fear in your life? None. That you could walk down your path and deal positively with all the experiences that come your way. Not from fear, but from joy. That's what you must learn how to do. First, by understanding the true nature of your fears, and then facing them, conquering them, and transforming them into power. Let's look at the concept of fear for a moment. We tend to think of fear as a natural response, but it's not. Fright is a natural response, a biological mechanism designed to startle and stimulate the fight or flight system of survival, to mobilize an organism into action. And then, once the danger is over, it's immediately dropped from one's consciousness. Fright is not the same thing as fear. Fear is a learned response, an intellectual act that we're trained to produce. If a rabbit in the wild were to retain its fear, it wouldn't be able to survive because it would be immobilized by the constant fear of being eaten. Fear, in other words, is a pattern for interpreting reality. Now, we express fear in different ways. Guilt, for example, is fear over something that we've already done. Resentment is fear over something that was done to us. Hostility is the fear of something being done to us in the present. And anxiety is the fear of what might happen to us in the future. Fear is not a natural bodily response to a survival need. A child learns to develop fear on a conceptual basis at around the age of 3 or 4. Carl Jung wrote that a child lives in the unconscious of his parents. Anxiety and fear are transferred to the child. And because fear, including anxiety, guilt, resentment, and hostility, are such a large part of the adult world, the child picks up fear as naturally as any other part of his experiences. And then to really lock it in, the child learns to ward off fear by fearing fear. Learned fear. This is what creates our worldview. The very source of our culture is that of a fear-based view of reality. So, how do you unlearn fear? By recognizing it and facing it. By the very awareness of fear and allowing it to pass through you. And when it's gone, its power over you has lessened. Whenever you feel anxious over some future event, or guilt, or resentment, or you feel a fear welling up inside of you, see the emotion clearly in your mind. Recognize it for what it is. It's not reality. It's your learned fear response to a circumstance. And its only real power over you is the mental construct that you've created. When you learn to be conscious of your fears, guilts, anxieties, resentments, and you let the emotion pass through you on a conscious level, each and every time it does so, the fear has less power over you. Let's use an extreme example. A phobia, for instance, which is a fear that's become psychologically traumatizing. Let's say it's the fear of flying. The way to conquer it is by facing it. Perhaps in baby steps at first, but eventually conditioning or relearning a new response to the unrational fear. Many people who are terrified of flying learn to become pilots so they could conquer their fear. By facing it and learning about it, they taught their mind to no longer be paralyzed by the thought of it. That's how you conquer phobias such as public speaking, fear of heights, etc. But what about everyday fears? Fears about success, about meeting new people, about taking social or business risks. Again, it's the same process. First, create an awareness of your fear. Recognize it, see it, and then take steps to put yourself in it, to face it and let it pass over you. Realizing that the fear of it is only a learned response, that your fear does not serve you any longer, and that you're allowing yourself to face it so that it can pass through you. If you see it and do this as I've described, as simple as it sounds, it's the quickest and easiest way to conquer a fear. Do the thing that you fear, and sure enough, it grows smaller and smaller. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Well, try it the next time that you experience anxiety or fear. Try it even on a guilt feeling or a resentment. It will work with those past fears as well by recreating the experience in your mind and rescripting your interpretation of it. So transform your fears and anxieties into power by recognizing them, becoming aware of your fears, letting them surface from your subconscious mind. Then let them pass through you, forcing yourself to face it, knowing that when it's gone, only you will remain. Do this and you'll discover a magic power in your life. Your fears will no longer control you, and you'll be freer and more able to explore more possibilities in your life. Okay then, let's move on. The next principle number 4, which is find your passion. Find the underlying principle or activity that gives your life meaning and pursue it. Joseph Campbell, in his Power of Myth teachings, talks about the idea of following your bliss, the thing that gives your life meaning, nurturing both body and soul. And it doesn't have to be work-related. It can be anything. Motherhood, a hobby, an educational pursuit. Go where your body and soul want to go, where you have that special feeling inside that says that this is right for you, and then stay with it, and don't let anyone divert you from your path. How do you find your passion? Well, look around you. You're having experiences right now that can lead you in the right direction. Follow your intuition. It's telling you truth about what you should be doing and where you should be going. And don't be afraid to experiment with your life. Taste new experiences and see where they lead. The answers are all around you. Perhaps you just can't see them yet. It's said that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Look for the signs. Your teachers are everywhere, all around you. Once you think that you've found the direction of your passion and the general path that your life should take, this becomes the underlying principle around which you organize your life. Let's say you have this pull to become a teacher. You love kids and you love the process of enlightening them. But right now you're a successful business person. And because you make a comfortable living, you'd be sacrificing income as well as time to go back to school to get your teaching credential. So what do? Follow your bliss. Listen to your heart. If you have a pull to teach, then teach. Get on the path of your life's mission. The sacrifices, the trials, the obstacles, all of this is part of your personal growth process. It's all part of your becoming a better, more fully alive human being. And isn't that the point of your life? Once you let go and allow your spirit to take over your life, you immediately start down the path of your bliss, and unseen forces begin to take over. Your life becomes bigger and more meaningful than you ever imagined. You feel an awakening and a drive that begins welling up inside of you. And so what if you make less money, or you have to go back to school, or you end up rethinking your relationships? It's only your life. It's worth thinking about. Why not view your life as a fine piece of art that's a work in progress? Each day you paint on the canvas of your experiences additional color and form, adding to your life painting. Although it will never be complete, each day you pursue your passions, your painting expands and becomes more beautiful and more alive with more meaning and color. But maybe you're thinking, okay, that's nice for you, Dane, but what I'd really like is $1 million. Then everything would be okay. And I would say to you this: find your passion, pursue it. The money will follow. Maybe not $1 million, but everything that you'll need to live the life that you desire. The secret to living the perfect life is not about money. Having it or not having it makes no difference in your experiencing happiness. This may be hard for you to understand, but the attachment to money actually separates you from your greater awareness. You know those bumper stickers that were around a few years ago that said, "He who dies with the most toys wins"? As if when you're on your deathbed that you'll actually really be thinking about all the stuff that you acquired. What you will be thinking about is who you loved and who loved you, and all the things that you did or didn't do. The bumper sticker should read, "He who dies with the most love and life experiences wins." That's the path of a true human being. To learn and grow and make that painting of yours a masterpiece of love and fulfilling experiences. So how do you create that kind of life? How do you direct your experiences so that they're positive and fulfilling? With principle number 5, which is to practice right thinking. You know, our minds are good at tricking us in life, good at creating suffering, and we're constantly struggling between the extremes of wanting more or at least something different, and suffering in this multi-level cycle of past regrets, future hopes, and present confusions. And our minds, or our egos, are playing games with us constantly, creating patterns of negativity, attitudes and motivations that are destructive to us living full and happy lives. And the answer lies in the mind. It's a source of all knowledge and inspiration. When we become enlightened, it's the mind that becomes enlightened. When we're sad, it's the mind that's sad. And by simply changing the way we think, we can literally transform our daily experience. I'm about to show you how. You know, we show great concern for our bodies, beautifying ourselves and spending great time and expense in creating impressive self-images. But seldom do we spend much time understanding or appreciating the powers of our minds. Why is that? Probably because we're externally driven. We don't value or even believe much in the things that we can't see. And so we neglect the most powerful force that we possess, our minds. Okay, so what is right thinking? It's a concept that we create by our thoughts, the experiences that we encounter in life. That our thoughts are things, a force of energy, if you will, that when projected into the universe actually affects others and the nature of reality. Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, was all about this. Many, many books have been written about it, and entire schools of thought have been created around this idea that thoughts have a basis in reality creation. And whether you choose to believe this or not, I think you will agree that your attitude does affect others and the outcome of the kind of day that you'll experience. How many times have you said, "It's just one of those days when everything goes wrong," or "I'm having a bad day"? And sure enough, you have created a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's not enough time in this message to go through all the metaphysical and quantum physics explanations for how our thoughts affect the world around us. Suffice it to say, believe it, and they do. What I'd rather give you here is an overview of how to apply this idea into your day so as to realize and gain from its power. Right thinking is merely the application of the positioning of your thoughts so that your experiences and outcomes are positive, so that you get what you want and can overcome your obstacles more easily and enjoy your life more thoroughly. The doctrine of right thinking is very simple. 1. Thoughts are things. They have power to affect people and events, and therefore how you think has everything to do with the reality that you experience. 2. By creating the right image or thought in your mind's eye of the kind of outcome that you would like to achieve, you're able to influence or create the appropriate circumstances for that future probability to be realized. Really, that's it. If you can visualize the outcome in vivid enough of a way and energize it with enough positive emotion, and all negative energy or thoughts surrounding the realization of this outcome have been neutralized, then all or some of it will likely come to pass. If you think I've completely flipped out, then I suggest you read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. The world's most successful people practice this all the time. So do top athletes and others who are leaders in their field. Some do a 10-minute meditation each night before going to bed, seeing the positive outcome of their next day, then waking up and making it happen. Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus each practice seeing themselves perfectly hitting the ball before they actually take a swing. Great musicians see the music in their mind's eye before they ever play a note or put them on paper. Practice right thinking. Negative thoughts don't serve you anyway. Catch yourself every time you say or think in negative, can't-do ways. Reframe the thought as if the thing or event had already happened in the way that you would like it to. Herein lies the secret to right thinking, to see the outcome as if it had already happened with a positive outcome. Practice this. Close your eyes and see your day tomorrow. All the positive things that you want to accomplish. See yourself accomplish them. Hear the voices of others congratulating you. See yourself winning. Every time a negative image or thought creeps in, see a gigantic slash mark across the negative image and reframe the positive outcome that you want to achieve. It's simple to do, but it may take some time for you to master this. A life of negative thinking may have mapped your mind in a way that thinking like this is not natural. Devote 10 minutes each night to your right thinking exercise. Close your eyes before dropping off to sleep and visualize the positive outcome of tomorrow's events exactly as you'd like them to be. Then, during the waking part of your day, become consciously aware of how many times you say or think a negative thought. Be honest with yourself, and then reframe the negative thought to a positive outcome. Do this for the next 30 days. Keep a journal of your progress, and I'd be willing to bet you $1 million that you'll see a shift in your experiences. Well, those are the 5 principles. 1. Live consciously in the present. 2. Surrender to your inner power. 3. Transform fear and anxiety. 4. Find your passions and pursue them. And 5. Practice right thinking. These 5 principles may take years, even a lifetime to master. But it is the experience of it, the learning along the way that slowly transforms your life to one of greater and greater meaning and happiness. And that is really the secret of living the perfect life. To embrace life in all the experiences that you encounter along your path, the pain and the suffering along with the pleasures. To live as if there is no tomorrow, to be, to exist, to surrender to your inner power and let life breathe you. Finding your teachers from all that surrounds you, to be in the world but not attached to it. The secret of living a perfect life is simple: to live, to be engaged in living and celebrate being alive each and every day.